Hello everyone and welcome to SAP ERP module tutorial. The topic for this tutorial is Invoice Parking. The dashboard used for parking invoice is ZFI4024. It has been observed that the users are using MIR7 for parking the invoice. All the users are now requested to make sure the use of dashboard ZFI4024 for parking the invoice. If they are parking the invoice using MIR7, it might not be visible to the accounts personnel for posting because all the accounts personnel are mandatorily using this dashboard for posting the invoice. So the users are supposed to use the same dashboard for parking the invoice. Now we'll take a sample purchase order and park the invoice in the SAP system. So all the users will be made aware with the process. So let's switch over to the SAP system. As you all can see in the screen, we already have a purchase order that has been released as well as the service entry for the same has been completed. This is a sample purchase order. If you go to the item details, you see a service entry sheet has also been maintained for the same. Now we'll park the invoice for the same service entry sheet for this PO. Now, as I told you, the T code for parking the invoice is ZFI4024. So we'll run the T code ZFI4024. Such a screen will appear. Procurement to payment dashboard. Here the user need to enter their respective purchase order. Now click on execute. Such details will be visible. PO number, plant code. We can also view the service entry sheet by clicking here. It will display the service entry sheet. We can check the values from here. Now, if we scroll to the right in this dashboard, we can see a link suggesting click here for invoice parking. So the user need to click on this option for parking the invoice. Now, as we clicked on the option, such a screen for parking the invoice, which is similar to the one that used to appear after running the T code MIF7 will appear. Now enter the basic details, that is the invoice date. Now enter the baseline date. The baseline date should always be later than the delivery date. Users have to make sure of the same. Now the user can see that the purchase order number and the line item for which we are parking the invoice is already displayed. If the user are not aware of the purchase order number, they can also select the service entry sheet and enter the service entry sheet number directly. But since we are parking the invoice via dashboard ZFI4024, it won't be required. Now click on more allocation criteria. Now you can see that the details of the service entry sheet are being displayed here. Now in the basic data, the first step to enter the amount and tax amount is to tick the checkbox calculate tax. Now the tax has been calculated and you can see the tax amount here. Now the next step is to copy the amount displayed in the balance and enter the same in the amount tab. The users have to make sure that the balance shown here should be 0. Only then the system will allow the correct parking of the invoice. Otherwise, while the users simulate the parking, the system will keep on showing an error. Now, Since we have entered all the basic details, the next step is to simulate the parking. Now click on the option Simulate shown here. Now, if all the details entered in the invoice are correct and the process has been completed correctly, such a screen will appear. As you can see, one more line item of TCS has been added here. If the TCS is applicable, it will be reflected, else the user need to contact the IT department so that the TCS checkbox from the vendor can be removed. In this case, the TCS has been maintained for the vendor selected. That's why the TCS value has been calculated automatically and shown here. Now, the next step and the last step to complete the invoice parking is to select the Save Parked document. There has been many confusions regarding Save Park document and Save as completed. So all the users are requested to select the Save Park document. This is the last step of parking the invoice. Now click on the Save Park document. You can see we have received a message document 510-560-1532 has been parked. It means that the step for invoice parking has been completed. If we refresh the dashboard again, we can see and we scroll to the right, we can see that the invoice number can be seen here. In case the invoice has not been parked or saved completely, the system will show the option click here for invoice parking again. But since the parking has been completed, the parked invoice number is now displayed here. The next step is the posting of document, which is always done by the accounts personnel. There has been observations that the users have by mistake posted the parking document as well. The posting of the invoice parking is supposed to be done by the accounts personnel only. Now, if we display the same purchase order in ME23N and we view the purchase order history, we can see one more line item with parked invoice has been created. It means that the parking for the same has been done. The users can check the status of their document whether the accounts department has posted the parking document or not using the same dashboard. After the accounts person have posted the document, a number will appear here. So that will be all for this session. Thank you.